Hello, hello. Right. Big crowd today. So we're going to wait just a couple minutes to let some people filter in and we'll get started. I'm excited. Everyone's here. Hopefully you're excited as well. So you'll see on this first screen is probably one of my all-time favorite moments from The Office when Michael Scott goes to an event and picks up all the free swag. So hopefully that'll kick us off in terms of context and the overall framing. We'll wait just a couple more minutes. Looks like people are still filtering in. See some familiar names here. That's fun. All right, I'll give it about 30 more seconds and then we'll get started. Okay, let's kick it off. Colleen, we can go ahead and go on to the next slide. So, welcome everybody. I'm so glad you're joining us. We're going to be talking about all sorts of things, everything related to swag today. I wanted to show this agenda slide first off so you can get a feel for what it is we're going to be discussing. We're going to be talking about what swag looks like in 2025, some specific thoughts around how you can make swag work for you, some tips and tricks, and some real life swag in the wild moments that are some of my favorite that I've seen out there so far. And we'll finish it up with a demo, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. So now one thing I did want to mention, we were having some technical difficulties earlier trying to get the chat function to work. So for the entirety of my usage of Zoom, the chat has always been there, but for whatever reason, we couldn't get it to work in this webinar. So we did have some interactive moments that we were going to ask people to throw some ideas or examples in the chat. What we'll do there is when those slides pop up, you can raise your hand, you can come off mute, and if you want to participate, that'd be great. Otherwise, I will just pull an audible and I'll sort of work through it. But all right, let's go to the next slide. So first, I wanted to introduce you. I think we've got longtime Snappy customers here in the space. We've got new people to Snappy, and we've got people I think that maybe are just kicking the tires. So I want to introduce Snappy at a high level to get a feel for what we do, how we do it, and why we do it. So first off, we are a gifting platform. And specifically, we're a gifting platform that focuses on helping our customers drive employee engagement, customer retention, and business growth through thoughtful, scalable gifting. You can see we work with over 8,000 enterprise customers. Some of the logos are there, over half of the Fortune 100 companies. But what we're really proud of is how our customers see us show up every day. And that's shown through our net promoter score of 80 and a 4.9 rating on G2. So it's not just what we do, but how we do it that we're proud of. And the way that we do that is through our global gifting marketplace. So our platform is powered by hundreds of supplier partners with hundreds of thousands of items, everything from experiences in local hometowns to big cities to vacations that can be booked through the platform, sports memorabilia. We've got a really long and large donation component to it, and then snacks and sweets. We also have swag, which is what we're talking about today. So to give you some context and to pull it all together, if you think about gifting, this is a time-old tradition that has multiple different parts. There's everything from the unwrapping experience. So you can imagine or remember a moment where you've probably gotten a gift. You've been able to unwrap it through the unwrapping paper, get open it up. Maybe there's a personalized greeting card in there. You get the gift, and then you close the loop by saying thank you to the gifter. So you've got the sender or the gifter and the receiver or the recipient. We take that whole motion, everything that's part of that, and we've brought it to the digital world so that gifting can be global, it can be scalable, and it can be very specific to the recipient. So that's what the platform does, but this is why we do it. So when employees feel appreciated, they perform better. When customers are rewarded, they stick around longer. We're in the business of driving results and moving that middle up to increase employee engagement, increase customer loyalty, and make sure that everything that relates back to your brand and that moment. All right, so I mentioned chat's not working. Totally okay. One of the first questions that I had, this is the first of few, is going to be asking about your swag experiences. So you can think back and think what comes to mind when you think of swag. Now, I know I sort of primed it a little bit with Michael Scott, but I want you to think about what does that mean to you? If anyone wants to come off mute or raise your hand, you're more than welcome to. You figure that might be tough. I know it's always hard to be the first person. All right. So I would imagine if the chat was working, that it's going to be related to things like going to a trade show and picking up a piece of branded merchandise from a table, or getting something from, like that fun run that you participated, a t-shirt, right? I want you to think about how that word makes you feel, the word swag, all of the good, the bad, and the ugly. And while you're thinking about that, we can go to the next slide. I want to introduce me. So, this is me. I'm wearing probably what is currently my favorite piece of swag. So it's the Dad Gang hat. What I love about this, one, I'm a hat guy. If you were to look over there, you'd probably see about 30 or 40 different hats. Uh, but what I love about this hat is by putting it on, and I wear it to my son's basketball games, to soccer matches. I've got a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old. And what this does is this instantly broadcasts or signals to everyone that sees me that I'm part of a particular community. And really, this is the heart of what branded merchandise can do. So I've been in the space for over 20 years. I've been with Snappy about 4. I'm the head of swag, so my team manages all of the branded components, and we really try to bring swag to life within the platform. So if you think about this piece of apparel, it has some unique physical properties, and this is something that swag is very specific about if you think about other types of advertisement. Because if you think about swag, ultimately what it is, it's part of that broader advertising world. So instead of TV, instead of print, instead of like out of office, the fact that it's a physical product and then it has both form and function, right? So the function is, I love this hat, it's high quality, I can wear it. And the form is, I love the design, it's something that's relevant to me, it connects me to part of a community that I subscribe to. It really completes that circle. And when I say unique, it's like those two form and function features together that bring it full circle. We can go to the next slide. All right. So thinking about swag in 2025. Swag historically for a lot of us is stuff, right? It's that box that you have to check when you have an event. You're thinking about all of the different things that you have to do if you're going to a trade show or you're managing an offsite. And that's just another thing is what are we going to give away? And I talk to people every day who walk me through sort of their process. I mean, I've talked to people that say that their garages are filled with swag, but it doesn't have to be that way. Traditional swag, that motion of buying in bulk upfront, figuring out where to store it, how to distribute it, that's not really built for today's pace. Back in the day, the assumption was that you had time, you had space, and someone in your team that could manage it. But we know that in today's world in 2025, your bandwidth is tight, your budgets are tighter, the expectations keep growing, and ultimately teams are being asked to do more with less while still creating thoughtful on-brand touch points that make an impact. So if you think about what we think about for the future, so now we've laid the groundwork for what swag is in 2025 and what it's been in the past. What we think about for the future is a little bit different. So the future of swag isn't just more stuff that you're going to have in your office. It's not more stuff that you're just piling up in the garage. It's the right stuff delivered to the right people at the right time. So when we talk about that, when we talk about the right stuff at the right time, there's really two like manufacturing methods when it comes to creating swag. There's the old way of creating in bulk, storing it somewhere. And then there's what we call on demand. So on demand, in the last, I'd say 5 to 7 years, the technology has gotten much, much better where the decoration is as good or if not better than some of the traditional ways. Not to say that buying in bulk is there's not a place for that. There absolutely is. But we really, really are invested in this concept of being able to produce product at the moment that somebody selects it rather than having it stored and then distributed over time. All right, now I want to talk a little bit about why we see swag working. So every year at Snappy, we do a workforce study. We go out to a bucket of folks that work at small companies, big companies, international companies, and we ask them a bunch of questions. This year, we asked several questions around swag. And the results are, I wouldn't say surprising because as a firm swag believer, this just reinforces what I see out there. But I think it's a really compelling, and this is actually a great slide for you to share. I've had some questions about like how can we sort of make the business case to execs or to other stakeholders as to why we should make an investment in swag. And I think these statistics really speak well to it. So if you think about swag and what the recipients ultimately said is 80% would say that would or make the choice to wear clothing with their company's logo. What that tells me is that swag is wearable culture, right? It's not just branding, it's that they want to be part of that community. 76% of the recipient or of the survey takers said that swag makes them feel more connected to colleagues. So if your company is hybrid, if it's fully remote, if it's global, or if it's all in person, there are ways, and Swag can help you connect those people in your company to the broader group of people in their team and in the company. And then 85% of people said that Swag makes them feel proud of their company and its mission. So that really speaks to over-indexing or reinforcing things like company values, the mission statement, things like that. People want to be proud of where they work. All right, the next question. So hopefully maybe somebody's warmed up a little bit, but I can imagine there are lots of challenges with how you are managing your swag program today. And I've heard a lot of them. So we know it's not easy, right? Is it logistics? Is it finding the budget for it? Is it getting buy-in internally from folks? Love to see, if anyone wants to come off mute, I'll give a brief pause to see if there are any hands. All right. Well, if we were to hear from you in the chat, here's what I would believe. I'm going to say Rissa.
Sure, I would say the inspiration, coming up with the ideas and the design.
Ah, yes. It's tapping into that creative component, which sometimes can be a challenge, especially if we're on the operations side, focused on the execution. I would agree with that. Happy, what do you got?
I was going to say finding something that does not end up in a drawer, something functional, something that is going to be used.
Absolutely. So I meant to mention this earlier on, but I have two sort of like philosophical ways that I think about swag. And it's called the weekend test. So the premise is this something that a recipient would wear on the weekend where they're not on the job? Is it high enough quality? Is it something where the logo or the decoration isn't like necessarily in your face, or maybe it is in your face in a positive way? And the second thing is what I call top of the drawer. So if you can imagine for a moment, you go to your dresser and you open it up and you're picking out a t-shirt for the day. The ones that you probably wear the most are going to float up to the top because you're wearing it, you're washing it, and you're repeating that cycle. So when we think about swag, I'm always saying, okay, is it something that is going to pass the weekend test? And is it a top of the door product? Andrea, what do you got?
Profit and probably the biggest challenge it would be cost and buy-in by the leadership here.
Absolutely. And so I think that's always what we have to be thinking about, right? Is balancing what are we getting like from an ROI perspective, and if we can actually measure that. But then also there is that cost component, making sure that we understand that budgets are tight. I have some examples where you can do some really effective branding and use product at a relatively low cost. So I'm excited to share those with you. Amazing. Thank you all for coming off mute. I know it can be a bit intimidating, but I really appreciate you lending your voice. So we can go to the next slide. All right. So I'm going to pepper in some tips and tricks throughout today. And this is the first one. When you think about branded merchandise, you should always start with what's the business outcome that you're trying to achieve, right? I'll be honest with you. It's really hard to start or launch a swag program if you just start with stuff. If you're like, I just need to check a box, that's not going to necessarily align with what the broader goals are of giving away the stuff because it can be expensive. So when I say start with the business outcome, it really is specific about matching up with moments. So matching up with moments or matching the moment is what this slide illustrates. We've got 5 sort of examples, right? So if you've zoomed out and you're saying, okay, what's the behavior that we're trying to encourage or we're trying to change, or what's the outcome of us giving something specific? I would think about those specific moments. And the first moment I want to talk about is the welcome moment, right? And this is probably one of the most important in both an employee's cycle at a company and a customer cycle. So if you have landed that new customer and you're really excited to get them started using, if you have a software platform, if you offer a physical service or any of the above, you want them to feel at the very first moment that they made the right choice. And so you can do something like a custom kit that has a note from your CEO or from the product leader that says, we're so excited to get started with you. We do this at Snappy. We have a box that we call Adventure Awaits. So we send it out to our customers when they first join, and it's got sort of a, I want to call it a passport that talks about all the different moments that you can celebrate. And it's almost like a checklist. And it has some other pieces of branded merchandise in there. Also, from a welcoming perspective, you can think about new hires. So this is probably the #1 use case that we see people use swag for, is on the first day, getting somebody when they first join, whether it be remote or in person, getting a nice box that's got, and I've got some examples that I'll show in a little bit, that has all the stuff that a new hire might need, whether it be a journal and a notebook, a water bottle for hydration. We've even done things where we can do tip-ins in the journal where it has things like the company's values or like a map of campus if it's a larger organization. The second moment I want to talk about is that celebration moment, right? So swag doesn't fit for every single moment, but in celebration, there are specific use cases that we see. So anniversaries is a great one. We've seen a lot of companies leverage things like lapel pins for anniversaries, and I've got an example later on. But it's a great way to say thank you and also to recognize and celebrate the years of service. And what I love about this is it is also a signaling mechanism. So if somebody gets like a pin or if they have like a desk trophy or plaque, when it sits on the desk, and if I were walking by and I saw that somebody had been there for say 10 years, as a maybe a relatively new employee, I would look and say, this person definitely understands the lay of the land. Maybe it's somebody that can help me. So it's sort of that shortcut to say they know what they're doing. Maybe I can ask them something. The third moment is incentivizing. So we see a lot of folks that'll use branded merchandise to encourage participation in meetings, to complete surveys, or do things like referrals. The fourth is engagement. So this webinar is a great example. There are going to be moments when you have an event. I'm thinking specifically of like maybe it's an offsite or if you're trying to engage top performers at your company. You can extend that event. And what I mean by that is like you can do a pre-show, right? So you can send something ahead of time that says that we're so excited for you to join us. Here's a little token of our appreciation. You can also do a post-show. Say, I hope what you found of the content was engaging. I think about like company offsites. If you're doing an annual retreat, you probably have a specific agenda. There might be a theme around the event or a particular mission that you're trying to accomplish that year. You can reinforce that through sending branded merchandise after the event to keep people thinking. And the last one is connection. So when we talk about connection, this is all about aligning the swag with a broader message. So I mentioned earlier about like a company offsite. This also works for connection. So reinforcing a company's values, or it could be if you did a brand relaunch, or maybe you're launching a new product. I'll give you a specific example. So on our team, when we launched swag into the Snappy platform, we designed a custom team swag logo, our graphic designer did, and we created a collection of items and we sent it out to everyone that worked on that project as a thank you. And it's still one of my favorite t-shirts that's in my drawer. It's actually probably close to the top. And that's a great way to sort of reinforce and align the company around specific events or moments. Okay, so we've talked through some of the most important moments that you can use to send swag. But, and this is, I think I'm really excited about this, I would love to hear from you. what is the best swag that you've ever gotten? So I've shared some pieces of swag that I've gotten, but I'd love to hear what's the best that you've received. Was it useful, thoughtful? Was it funny, sort of tongue in cheek? Yeah. Does anybody have any items that they can think of off the top of the head that was branded that they got that they loved? All right, Melissa, why don't you share with us?
One year we received, it was like an outdoor blanket. So like the one side, like if it was wet, the ground was wet, it wasn't a matter. And the other side was like a velvet, but it had our company logo on it. I've actually had it for 20 years and I love it. I still use it all the time. That's been one of the best things that we ever got.
That's amazing. Was it around a specific like event driven, or was it just a gift that was sent out to everyone?
It was just a gift that was sent out that they randomly picked. I've been with the company for so long, but it was just a gift that they randomly picked. And it's been a best, you know, it has the elastic band around it. So it's a nice little holder, but it's great to just throw out for sporting events and stuff like that with the kids.
That's awesome. So can we just take a moment and appreciate the fact that you've had it for 20 years? I mean, can you
Yes.
imagine any other type of advertising or medium that you purposely keep with intention and you do it for 20 years? Like that's impressive.
Yeah. And that it's lasted. I mean, it's still in great shape.
That's awesome. All right, Michelle, what do you got?
I got a blend jet actually, and so I use it for my morning smoothies. I've actually made salsa with it and also mixed a margarita. So it's been really a great gift.
That's amazing. It sounds like very versatile.
Yes, very versatile and allowed me to be creative with different things too. So very useful.
That's awesome. Ryan, I see your hand up. That's a familiar face.
Hey Eric, how are you?
Good.
Good. Yeah, the most I think unique and useful thing that I've got. I actually worked for a company recently that was a kind of a premier sponsor of the PGA Tour and several PGA Tour athletes. So as a golfer, it was nice myself because I got a lot of golf polos, but we also got like a driver head cover, a golf umbrella, premier, top of the line golf balls with our company branding logo on there. So me, very sports specific and kind of niche in a way, but that was something that I really appreciated.
That's great. And it's on brand too, on theme for the event. That's super, super great. All right, last one, Mary, what about you?
The best thing I ever got, now I kind of wish I had a blender though. But but I got a fleece jacket or fleece pullover. And if you're ever, I don't go to the office much anymore, but it was always my kind of, as women will know, my office sweater because it's freezing in the office and I wore it almost every day when I was there. The men, however, loved those like quarter zip pullovers. I couldn't, I mean, we couldn't keep them kind of in stock, basically. They got to choose them when they were new employees and because they worked on site with clients. But those little half zip, you know what I mean? Quarter zip pullovers for men, they're kind of athletic material.
Absolutely.
They were so popular and I would see people out and about on the weekend, they'd be wearing them. So to their kids' soccer games or whatever, the clothes were really, really useful because it wasn't a t-shirt, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like sort of those quarter zips, and they are very popular for us. In fact, overall, from an industry perspective, apparel accounts for like between 56 to 60% of branded merchandise. So in general, apparel is one of those categories or buckets that people really resonate with people. Amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for sharing with me. As you hear about some of these things, there really are some patterns within that. So you can think about like, okay, the items that people shared, they're items that were relevant to themselves, that they were useful, that really it's the ability to have it be thoughtful, and also in certain cases like the golf stuff, on brand or relevant to the event. So I'm going to share this next little section is sharing swag in the wild, right? And so really what I want to do is see how companies are doing this with intention and thoughtfulness, because ultimately what drives down is if you can be intentional and you spend just a little bit extra time thinking about how swag relates back to those moments, it's going to resonate much more with your recipients and the people that are giving it. So my first tip for you in that space is make it useful and memorable. So you've heard me talk about form and function. This is sort of like the sister phrase. Is it useful and is it memorable? All right, we can go to the next example. And this one is like, this is probably one of my all-time favorite examples of branded merchandise in the wild. And I had the privilege to actually work in a small part on this project. So it's close and near and dear to me. So let me set the stage. This is this is part of an overall onboarding process. And so Twilio has in their onboarding process a very specific way that they do it. Every single person is required as part of onboarding to build an app and then demo it to a group of people at the company. And that's from the intern all the way, in this example, to the CEO of a company that they acquired, SendGrid. You go through that onboarding process, you finish the demo, and at that moment, they hand you a red track jacket. And that track jacket is a symbol that they have completed onboarding. And so I think about how this company has woven branded merchandise at its very core into an onboarding process and been able to like physically represent the company through this red track jacket. And it's such a powerful way to use branded merchandise as part of their onboarding. The next one takes us in a little bit different direction. So I remember when my wife first ordered her first Glossier makeup. For those of you that aren't familiar with the brand, it's a relatively new brand on the scene. I guess it's been like 5 or 6 years now, or more than that. But as part of they have a gift with purchase program. So you buy a certain amount of makeup and you would get this bag. And I remember seeing this bag and I was like, wow, that's super cool. This is a piece of swag, even though it doesn't have a logo or branding on it, but the branding is it. That's the distinction. So there have been millions of these out there. It's you can see this quote from Who, What, Where. It's sort of an it accessory, so much so that people actually buy and sell them on a secondary market. But this just illustrates that swag and branding doesn't always have to be in your face. It doesn't always have to be a left chest logo that's big and bold. If you take a brand's colors, you really think about the audience and the usefulness of the product, it's going to do just as good of a job as a branded item. Okay, so this one has got to be probably my new favorite. So just last week, I happened to be on LinkedIn and I saw this post and I was like, just sort of like mind blown. James Watt, to give you some context, he's founded several companies. One of the most notable ones is Brewdog, which is a craft brewer in the UK. So he posted this picture of this hat, and I was like, oh, that's a pretty cool hat. And I read the post, and to give you context, what he had done is so he's looking at engaging with a creative branding agency. And so he talked to all sorts of people. He says over 100 potential partners, one of which was his company, Day Job. So he ultimately decided Day Job was not the right fit for him in the moment, and he told them, no, thank you. A week later, package shows up in the mail, and inside is this hat. So this accomplished 3 things, right? One, his wife's new favorite hat. So she's out there in LA walking around wearing this hat. People are going to see it. If you can't read it, it says, I almost worked with Day Job, which is just a funny, clever rejection marketing play at its finest. But she's going to be walking around. People are like, oh, that's an interesting hat. And it's going to spark conversation. So that's the first thing that this accomplished. The second thing, James, I can almost guarantee you the next time he's going out there and is going to look for a creative partner, he's going to talk to Day Job again. And the third thing is he posted it on his social. When I saw this on LinkedIn, over 4,600 people had liked it and over 430 comments. So if I'm Day Job, I'm thinking I just invested in this hat, which is, maybe it's like all in. It was like a $25 hat, including shipping. And I got an amazing amount of engagement in it. So if you think about from a sales and a acquisition perspective, this sort of tongue-in-cheek sort of, it matches their brand in general in terms of the way that they're super witty and the way they think about creative is hands down, it's paying for itself. Okay, so hopefully you got your juices churning a little bit. You saw some of these examples of swag out there in the wild that really is resonating, and it's playing up to really thinking about those moments and making it memorable. The next big tip I have for you is tell a bigger story. So I mentioned earlier, there was a comment about like cost is always a component. I absolutely agree. And I think that there are ways, and in fact, I know there are ways that you can still tell stories and you can use swag to tell those stories in a very cost-effective manner. And I'm going to share a couple of them with you. So the first one is stickers. I have a coworker that I work closely with who used to work at WeWork. And we were just sort of talking about swag and how different companies apply swag. And she told me this story about WeWork, how every location has its own custom branded sticker. And you think about the ethos of WeWork itself, right? Being able to work from anywhere in any city and any time. And this aligns, it just tells that brand story so well. So the overall way that it worked is if her working at WeWork, she would go and she would work at different offices. And in each office, she would collect a sticker. Kind of like think about like stamps in a passport, right? She would put the sticker on her laptop. She might grab a couple extras to trade with her home office. And over time, her passport starts to fill up. And it tells a story of all the places where WeWork has offices and where she has been. And I think it's such a really relatively low cost way to reinforce what the brand stands for, what its mission is, what its overall ethos is. On the right-hand side is another post that I saw on LinkedIn. And this was an individual that was sort of celebrating their career journey at this company, Cohesity. And what I love about this is the stickers on the laptop speak to very specific moments in time where they achieve some sort of career achievement, right? So you've got the base sticker of Cohesity. There's a couple event-driven ones there where they did specific things. Maybe they were at a hackathon, or they were participating in another event. You can see there's ERG stickers there, so being able to represent what ERGs they might be a part of or what they affiliate within the company. And like this is such a great one place to show or describe a employee's entire professional journey at a company. All right, and the next example. So Ryan Holmes, he started a company called Hootsuite. And I've followed him for a long time, and he's actually had multiple posts about and articles that he's written around how swag has been part of his company culture. So one of the key things that he talks about consistently is this concept of how you do one thing is how you do all things. And this is me sort of paraphrasing ultimately what he's talking about. But what that means is when you hand out something like this plushie, or you hand out a t-shirt, that is a physical representation of your brand to the person that has it, right? So if they take a look at it and maybe it's a poorly designed shirt or it's a poor quality product, that's going to be a direct representation of how they might perceive your company. So the flip of it is if you want to message or signal to your customers or prospective customers that you understand aesthetics, you understand design, you understand how things work, then you should also take that same approach with your brand and merchandise. So much so, Ryan believed this, that even at the very beginning of his company, they would put their top graphic designer on designing their swag because they knew the importance of it. Okay, last tip for you. You got to make it work for you. All right. And so swag can oftentimes pull double duty. You've heard me sort of talk a little bit about it's also an advertising medium or mechanism, right? And in fact, at its core, that's really the original intent of brand and merchandise way back into the day. I think the first piece of brand and merchandise was like a collectible pin that was handed out as part of attending an event or buying something. So it can do two things at the same time. It can be a meaningful, useful, relevant gift for the person that has it and gets it. And it can also help brand or make people more aware of your company. And there's sort of two examples that I have here. I've talked about new hire kits multiple times. I wanted to show you an actual, what I would consider an epic welcome kit. Now, this isn't something that I worked on. I saw this on LinkedIn, but I was like, man, this is so cool. So this graphic designer at SupportWorks posted this, and she talked a little bit about what they were thinking when they were designing this. And if you look at this box, what's amazing is every single item in there is connected back up to a company value or a part of the company culture. And the way they do that is not just with the item, but then the box is branded. It's a custom box. And on the inside, in the interior flap, it's sort of like a map of everything that's in there. So, and it tells why we gave you this pin, what this stands for within the company, what the bookmark represents within our values. And you can imagine like a new hire getting this, that's excited to join, maybe doesn't know all the different things about the company, opens it up and says, huh, okay, this makes sense. The bookmark is because we should always be curious and always trying to learn new things. I understand it. I get it. So it's being able to translate maybe some of those words on a screen or words that are talked about in an all hands into a physical product that gets used over and over again. All right, my last example for all of you. So this one I think is really fun. You know, it's like, again, it's an example of a relatively low cost investment, but something that is so specific. And this is a bit on the nose, right? So for Pinterest, they have pinversaries, which is their anniversary, and they hand out lapel pins. I mean, if that doesn't make complete sense, if you're in the HR space, I don't know what does. But what I love about this is, again, it's very straightforward, right? It's a backer card with a note that says, thank you for all your contributions, and it's got a pin attached to it. But it also has double duty in the sense that the pin itself, so they have this thing called Pinterest Predicts, which is sort of what they see the future, you know, based on trending things within the Pinterest boards. This pin, the design, was influenced and inspired by the Pinterest Predicts. So it reinforces this maybe new initiative that Bill had at the same time while providing a pin. So I love pins. I love stickers. I also love really nice quarter zips. So all of the things that you can do in Swag. All right. We just went on a journey of Swag. I hope that you got some sort of ideas or some prompts or some different ways to think about it. I want to share now a little bit about how we think about Swag at Snappy and then finish up with a demo and Q&A. Okay, so you've heard me use some of these words in different iterations or versions throughout the presentation. But when we first engage with a customer and we're talking about what they want a Swag program to look like, this is the framework that we use. We start with the culture. We want to understand a little bit about your company, what it is that you're trying to accomplish, what quirks there might be, what inside jokes you might have. And we want to make sure that we're creating Swag that's consistent with that, with your brand. So that really reinforces that cultural identity across the Swag. The next thing that we think about is the audience. So that is everything from your employee base to your customers to prospects to anything that you might be doing with Swag. I was on last week with a customer and she used a phrase that I was like, wow, this is fascinating. She said, you know, our audience is really broad. We have everything from techs to execs. And what that means is they've got people out in the field. They're like a large telecom company. They got techs out in the field that are, you know, helping customers install equipment, service equipment, and they are a very different audience. The things that they might care about, the pieces of Swag that they might want, than the execs that might be sitting in the boardroom. And you can think about how understanding the audience really drives and defines the usefulness of the products that we should present. So the techs might be interested in something like a flashlight, a branded flashlight that they can use in their day-to-day, or, you know, a mobile device charger that they can also stick in their truck, versus an exec, if they're traveling a lot, might have different items or different things that are going to resonate with them. The third bucket is budget and timeline. That's straightforward. We have to understand your budget and timeline, and that matters for you, right? We want to make sure we deliver on time and on budget. And the fourth is outcome and intent. And so that's sort of that bigger, broader bucket is like, how do you want people to feel when they get that piece of Swag? And how do you make sure that it resonates with them and then really creates that moment of connection? So that's our framework. Now, here are the solutions that help roll up and match with those business outcomes and drive that business impact. So I talked a little bit about the different manufacturing methods. We support both. So we recognize there are moments when you may want to buy in bulk. We do have a warehouse. We can use that to be able to spin up from a campaigns or collections perspective. Benefits of bulk is you get a little bit more cost reduction because manufacturing things in volume always reduces the price. It also opens up the ability for custom kitting and custom packaging, and it has a broader selection of items that we can produce. Versus on demand is great, and I do firmly believe that's the future of the industry. It's great because there's no upfront inventory. So you're not paying a bunch of money, particularly when you think about like sized items. This is where on-demand works extremely well. So you don't have to sort of think about what sizes should I order. and try to forecast that. You can use on demand. People can actually choose. Like if I'm here in Seattle where I'm based, I might want a rain jacket for most of the year. Versus if somebody else is down in Texas, they may not want a rain jacket. They may want a lightweight polo like the one that I'm wearing. And then the third thing that we offer, which is new this year, is swag stores. So what this does is it's more of an e-commerce experience. It's got points, a bank of points that can be allocated and then redeemed for items. And then it also allows self-purchase. So employees can go and buy items if they want. All right. So I want to do a quick demo because I know that's been something that people have asked for. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And then we're going to open it up for questions for like the last 10 minutes. All right. So this is just going to be at a high level, sort of how Swag works within the platform. What you're seeing here is the dashboard. So if you're familiar with Snappy, this is going to look normal to you. If you're not familiar with Snappy, this is sort of like your operations center to be able to do all the gifting that you need to do. So in this case, we know that we want to send out some swag. Say, I don't know, we had a webinar, right? And I want to say thank you to the folks that came to the webinar for spending an hour with me. So I'm going to go to the collections. I'm going to say swag. Earlier this morning, I uploaded a logo through our on-demand tool, and I created this collection. With sort of like a low-key, sort of like chic look, right? So black on black, black on gray, black on white, something very straightforward. Hopefully this is something that you would wear or use. You can see all the different options that we have. This is all produced on demand. So I would send this out to recipients, and you all would be able to say, I actually need a hat. So maybe I'm interested in this hat. So this is, as me as an admin, I'm able to review all the items that are here, make sure that it fits everything that I want. And this is kind of cool, right? A dog bandana. So yeah, this is good. My budget is $50. I'm going to continue with this collection. This is now building the gift and helping you create the campaign. You can do all sorts of stuff here. You can notify people via email, SMS, Slack, or MS Teams. I can personalize this gift. So this is that, if you think about the components of a gift, this is going to be the gift message, the unwrapping, and then there's also the email, how they receive it. So I want to select a specific unwrapping experience. That one's cool. What about magical gratitude? Yes, this is, I want to say thank you. All right, so we're going to go with that one. Here's where I would add the recipients. I can either pull from our HRIS or I can upload a file of folks. Now, if I want to preview the gift, this is what the recipients will see. So you'll be able to unwrap your gift. See something cool here. See the animation. We've got all sorts of animations. Dive into the gift. And then this is all dynamic. So pulling the first name of the recipient. This is a custom message that you can create. You can also change the banner. And then as a recipient, I can see all the different options I have. So I might say, oh, okay, I need a new water bottle. I'm going to choose this gift. Then I fill out all of my delivery information, and this is printed on demand and directly drop shipped to the recipient. It's about 3 days, 3 to 5 days for production, and then up to 5 days, depending on location, for delivery. And that's it. Super simple. I was able to send out a gift to everybody saying thank you for attending the webinar in a matter of minutes. All right. We got about 13 minutes left. I hope this was super helpful. I would love to hear comments, questions, feedback. Yes, Barbie.
Is there an option on the, I don't know, better word to say, quality of the merchandise, like clothing, materials, different brands and such that we could choose from? Because sometimes we need higher end, like you said, for like more of the exec or for gifts for clients, the higher end clients versus the other employees, necessarily don't want to keep it more budget friendly.
Absolutely. And it's a great question. Yeah, the short answer is yes. So when we think about from a on-demand perspective, when we think about what we offer in the collection, we really emphasize what I'll call better basics. So my personal preference is there are certain brands that I sort of focus or lean in on. So like a Comfort Colors, which is a garment wash brand, Bella Canvas. But we do carry name brands like Nike, Adidas, the North Face, all of those that are all done on demand. But we have access to everything from good, better, best luxury that we can do through bulk.
Do you have access to Lululemon?
We do not have access to Lululemon. That's one of those hard brands. Not every brand necessarily wants to be co-branded, and that's one that makes it a little bit challenging.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Great question. Thanks, Barbie. All right, we're going to go with, I think, Kel, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Or is it Kelly?
It's Cal. How are
Okay.
you?
Good. How are you?
Yes, I'm great, thank you. So I'm not familiar. This is my first time attending or knowing anything about Snappy. So I have a couple questions. My first one is, at what point are you charged for the merchandise? Is it charged after they pick it or before? And then the other thing is packaging upon delivery for them. What does that look like?
Two excellent questions. Thanks, Cal. If you think about the two manufacturing methods, we have on-demand and then bulk and kits. I'm going to focus on on-demand right now to answer a couple of those questions, then I'll come back to bulk and kits. For on-demand, it works where you're not charged until the recipient selects the gift, because at that moment is when they say, hey, I want that polo or that hat. And we only charge you for what the value is of that gift. So say you send out a campaign and you say 100 people and 5 of them select the hat and another 10 select a sweatshirt. We'll send you on a monthly basis a invoice that'll show you exactly what was claimed. And at that point is when we charge you. Packaging for those items just come in like standard, like what you would get at Amazon packaging. Typically, they're like a poly mailer. Yeah, I'll pause there because Kelly, I think you had a follow up.
No, that's
Oh,
it.
cool. So that's
Thank
on
you.
demand. For bulk and kits, we can do custom packaging, but that's a little bit more of us working with you closely to understand the campaign. It's usually for larger buys, and then in that case, we can do a custom mailer, and then you would pay upfront. So you pre-purchase the inventory and you own it.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So I don't have. Let me see if there's a way for me to. There we are. Okay. So I've got a list. All right. We're gonna go with Jacqueline.
Um, Hi. Yes. So our company is just now considering implementing the Snappy program for new hires and employee recognition. And we have understood that this is actually taxable income. And so how is that, like gifting is like a fringe benefits rule? So how do you communicate that to the employees in a way that is acceptable? We don't want to be giving gifts and be like, oh, by the way, you've got to pay taxes on it. Do you have any advice?
So I'm not an accountant or a tax attorney. So
Okay.
it is a really good question, though. And from what I understand from our customers is there are certain taxable events with gifting if it is a product that has resale value. So like if you think about like a gift that you give, like if you use regular Snappy and they pick like a air fryer, then they can go and they can resell that. I think that it's a little bit less clear when it comes to branded items. I have heard that the approach that
Gotcha.
some companies take is because it's not resellable, therefore it's not really a taxable item. But I would say if you're concerned, I would talk with, the folks on your finance team, maybe folks on your legal team to get a better understanding.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. So you're saying that it's a little bit less tricky when you go with the branded gifts and the swag gifts like you've explained today.
That's my understanding of it. But again,
Okay, that's good.
yeah,
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.
of course. Thank you. All right, I think Ryan's next.
Yeah, so this is kind of a random question as more of somebody who's received swag before. Like, I got a little triggered when you showed one of the slides that had, like an onboarding, like welcoming gift, right? Have you guys ever got any feedback or pushback on the actual materials that get packaged with the gift? Like I saw that those crumpled, shredded pieces of paper, which I'm not gonna lie to you, are kind of the bane of my existence. The last couple times I've received, something like that. Is that something that you can like kind of customize, like what gets put in with there, or how's that work?
Yeah, so like the crinkle paper that you see there.
Mhm.
So there is, I hear you, Ryan. Like I remember early on, there would be like styrofoam peanuts. And I think of all the things that I don't want to send, it's going to be styrofoam peanuts.
Yep.
I think the benefit of crinkle paper is at least it's recyclable, but it does end up everywhere.
Okay.
And the tension that we run into when you're sending items is what do you do with empty space and how do you fill empty space? Because the box isn't going to be perfectly aligned to the exact dimensions of the items.
Right.
So you got to fill that space with what's called dunnage. And so I have looked at lots of different options. You can do dunnage that's like air pockets. You can do crinkle paper. You can do paper, like wadded up paper.
Mhm.
None of it's perfect.
Right.
But it is something that like if you feel strongly like, hey, I do not want to be sending, confetti crinkle paper to all of my customers, then we can absolutely come up with a solution for you.
Cool. Yeah, that's again, I just got triggered. That's like right up there with glitter for me. So,
We could put glitter in there if you want.
oh
We can
God.
do it first.
Thanks, Eric.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we're gonna go with, I think the next one on the list is it Lisa?
Hi.
Hi,
First of
Lisa.
all, I love Snappy. I think Snappy is the greatest. We looked at a couple of other platforms and solidly sold on Snappy. So thank you. My question is about the new on-demand plus, I think it was. So an employee, okay, how does that work?
Yes, great question. So within on demand, there are a couple different levels. So for our essential customers that are using the free version of the platform, we have what's called instant on demand, where there's, I believe it's like 62 different items that are part of the platform. You can upload your logo and you'll have access to designing those 62. For our elevated and enterprise customers, so those on our paid subscription, we offer we'll call it like an expert curated approach. So my team will help create more items through On Demand Plus, which is what that refers to. And what essentially that means is we're spending some time creating a collection on your behalf, and it includes more things like polos, outerwear, jackets. It has some electronic items, some bags. So the distinction is just if you're going to do it yourself through our instant product or On Demand Plus, where we're helping create that for you.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, there was something about people being able to spend additional money to purchase.
Yes. So stores, which is
That's it,
like
stores.
so Snappy stores we just launched a couple weeks ago, and that's to our elevated and enterprise customers. So what that does is it's powered by on-demand swag, but it's a different like delivery mechanism or like entry point for your folks where they can go in and they can shop for items, they can spend their own money, or you can award them with points that they can then spend on the swag. So that's probably what you were thinking about.
It was. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, I think let's go Leah and then Andrea.
Hi, I had a question kind of in relation to what you were just talking about, actually. So, when you are creating a collection, is there ever an option to support multiple logos? Or would you have to set up one of the merch or swag stores to be customizable in that way?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's something that, a fair number of our customers ask about is, hey, can we have one collection of items that has maybe multiple logos in it? And there are a couple ways that we can solve for that. The first is our team, the swag team, can create those for you and then populate it. There's a separate question of like how many items, say hypothetically you have 6 logos and you say we want to create a full collection with all 6 logos. It can be sort of paralysis by analysis because you might end up having, 400 or 500 items and some of those items being repeated. So
Mhm.
we like to work with our customers and say, okay, maybe we do multiple logos just for the t-shirts, or we create a smaller collection. So there's that way, or you can also go through stores and use that as being able to upload multiple logos for different items.
Okay, perfect. And then do you happen to know offhand, is there like a limit within the stores as to how many of those logos you could support or offer?
There's no functional limit. I mean, let me put it this way. I've not actually seen us get to a point where there's a functional limit, but I am sure there's like performance issues if you have like 10,000 items on this as example. So I don't think you'll get there, but I think it should pretty well.
All right. Yeah, I just think it would be a great option for us for our business. We've recently undergone a rebranding, but to be able to highlight some of those specific events that are happening, throughout a career or even internally in the business, to have a logo that we can apply to a piece of apparel that explicitly says, this is your 3-year, or we're having this big event that's coming up, would be really cool. So thank you.
Yeah, and one thing I didn't mention is part of our on demand is we do have this option to do what we call our personalization. So we have the ability through dynamic fields where we can pull in employee data like their initials, their first name, last name, years of service, and it can populate on the item. So it doesn't necessarily have to be you're creating like a shirt that says 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year. We can actually design it within that years of service embedded in design dynamically.
Even better. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, Andrea.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. One, is there a minimum amount that you have to spend on a swag item? So you did that little demo and it was like a $50 item. I'm wondering, is there a minimum?
Yeah, great question. Do you want to ask your second question as well, or do you want to answer this one and then we can go to your next question?
Yes, answer this one first.
Cool. So we definitely recognize that like not every event or every occasion are you going to be able to spend lots of money. So we have items in the platform. We think about it from a budget band. And what that means is if you want to give people the gift of choice and you want to say, hey, we've got a bunch of swag that you can pick from. But we don't want to exceed, like say you say, I can spend no more than $25 per recipient. You can select $25 as the budget, and then everything that's going to be in the collection would be $25 or less. That's a long way of saying we have items that go as low as $19 that can be done on demand, and they go all the way up to like I think $350 on demand. That's for on demand. For bulking kits, if you're doing a larger purchase, then we can do items that are much less expensive.
Thank you. And the second question is, we've been using Snappy for about 3 years now, and we love it. And we haven't heard any complaints from anybody. It's all been very positive feedback. So thank you for that. And then the question is, so we use Snappy. We use the free platform. We have like 500 employees. I'm wondering, when we use it for milestone work anniversaries, that's the only thing we use it for right now. If we wanted to have swag as an option to picking those other gifts, is that a possibility? Like, do you have like a swag button or something if they wanted to look at swag? Because would that be like the swag store?
So it's if you're in your dashboard, there's going to be a section that's called Swag Hub. So if you're on our essential version, you'll see the Swag Hub, and it will prompt you to create swag. So through what's called Instant On Demand. So you can go in, and if you have your logo in a high-res format, preferably PNG, you can upload it there, and you can create like I think it's about 62 items, everything from polos to hats to drinkware, and you can actually take those items and you can use that as part of your gifting campaign. So there is definitely that possibility, and we can certainly follow up, and we can send you like I think there might be some help desk articles or some like guides that sort of walk you through how to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. And thank you so much for using Snappy. All right, it looks like we've got three more questions. I know we're at time. I can stick around for a couple more to answer these questions, but I do want to say before we talk with Tina, Rachel, and Happy, thank you everyone for everyone that's shown up so far. I know some of you are dropping, but I really appreciate it. I'm always around to talk swag, so this is what I do. This is the world that I breathe in ever since college. So this is my space, and I love it. All right, Tina, go for it.
Hi, we are an elevated client currently using Snappy as our employee birthdays and anniversary program. We were already looking for a swag store opportunity with other vendors, and then we heard that you guys were going to be offering that as well. We are at the point of being ready to set up and go as long as we get a few questions answered. The big one being, is there a monthly cost to have a swag store extension of your program as an ongoing basis if we're doing an on demand, and we want to offer both the ability to give points as well as employees to make purchases on their own. And then besides that, how do we get started?
Love it. This will be probably the simplest answer I can give today. No ongoing cost. It's part of being an elevated enterprise customer, and we can get started like either if you want to create it on your own, you can do that, in the next 15 minutes, going to the store. In your dashboard, there's going to be a stores. You can click on that, or you can reach out to our team and we can sort of guide you along the process.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Tina. All right, let's go with Rachel.
Hi, when you guys ship internationally, say we send a $50 gift, we have global associates everywhere. Are there specific countries that you don't ship to? And is then the pricing included in that $50 gift amount, or is it like on top of it? How does that work?
Yeah, really good question. And it sounds like, Rachel, you've had some experience with all of the challenges that come with global shipping and delivery.
Yeah.
So we currently support through on demand. I believe it's 176 countries, and we do that through a combination of two things. Whenever possible, we do what's called local fulfillment. So we have regional partners that are decorating in the EU, Australia, Canada, Japan, and the UK, but they don't do everything. And then if we can't have an item that's sourced locally, which just means it's going to be faster from a delivery perspective and less potential for getting it caught in customs, we will then ship DDP via FedEx. So from a cost perspective, when you're sending out gifts, the way that we think about it is starting with your budget amount. So if you say we don't want to spend more than $50 per gift, we then will populate that collection based on the location of the individual. So as a hypothetical, if you have folks in, let's say, Germany, India, and the US, we create a branded collection for you. Then you select that budget. And then the recipients in each one of those three locales is going to see what's available for them that meets your budget amount. So the selection might vary a little bit, but overall, it'll have the same sort of subset of items. So hopefully that makes it a little clearer.
I think so. Yep.
Maybe another way to answer that is, yes, there is additional cost if it's shipping internationally. But the way that we think about it is not our promise to you is it's never going to exceed the budget that you've said you want to spend.
Got it. Okay, just that their potential items they could select from might be different based on their region.
Yes, and there are two ways that our customers think about it. They say what I care about most is parity, meaning that I want everyone to do the exact same thing, or what I care about most is managing cost. And so we solve for that in different ways. If it's parity, then we say you want to bump up the budget and just select the item that you want the items that you want people to have access to, knowing that cost may vary up to 20 to 30%. Or if cost is what matters, you say I don't want to exceed this dollar amount.
So then how would that work for like a new hire kit getting sent out? Like that would just have to be parity and we just pay whatever the cost is for international shipping.
Yeah, so new hire kits are a little bit different and they operate, anything that's bulk operates a little bit differently for us. So So, and I'm happy to always like answer these questions. Maybe it's of interest to the rest of the folks here, but we currently don't do international shipping for any bulk items that sit in the US. And the way that we solve for that is through our on-man partners. So kits, as a specific example, today we don't send internationally, but it's something that will be in the platform in the future.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, last one. Let's round it out with Happy.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Eric. First of all, thank you for this session. It was very, very, very extremely helpful. A simple question. I heard you talking earlier about milestone anniversaries, and you were mentioning pins. Is there a relationship with the pin service within the platform, or how are you doing this?
Yeah, so my team effectively acts like a swag distributor. So we've got relationships with a bunch of different manufacturers and decorators. We'll go out and source those pins. So typically what we'll do is we'll work with our customers and they might say, we want to do lapel pins, so maybe we want jewelry quality. We're working on a project right now where there's going to be diamonds and emeralds in some pins, or maybe we want to do a lower cost pin. So we will then go and source those items. We'll provide pricing, and then we'll warehouse them, and then we'll send them out through the platform.
Have you guys figured out a minimum on that?
It varies by the product, but I believe, and I'm sure Elizabeth on my team is going to check me after this, but I think it can go as low as 50 quantity. Now there is a question though of like we do have a minimum in order to do bulking kits with Snappy, which is, I believe it's 15,000. So meeting that minimum threshold. So usually those are the projects that we'll look at for the broader bulk buys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Happy. Okay. To the 85 of you that stuck around till the end, I really appreciate it. Thank you all for joining us. I hope this was informative. I hope it was exciting. I hope that it sparked some ideas for you. Thank you for thinking of Snappy. And yeah, we are here to help you in all your swag and non-swag gifting needs. So you have a great day.